Hi, this is Bird from Bird's SVGs, and in this video we're going to be putting together the Snowflake Tree, and this is from the Christmastime SVG collection. Now you will be very surprised at how quick and easy this tree is to put together, but it's got a really cool kind of modern feel to it. Okay, so I'm folding along the score lines in the trunk of my tree, and it's kind of like a very gradual cone. But what I'm doing to help me fold my lines is I'm just using a ruler, because these score lines are actually quite close together, particularly around the top. So I'm finding that it's quite helpful to just use a ruler to help me with my scoring. I'm just trying to be careful at the top because obviously the score lines are particularly close up there. Now, being on video, it's a little bit tricky to be right over your work like you would normally be at home, but just take your time and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so you've got a long tab running down, but because there are even panels on this kind of cone, the trunk, we can fold the trunk flat, and it's a lot easier to close up our trunk that way. So I'm folding it flat, and I've added glue to my long tab, and then I'm just going to set that aside for a moment and put my star together just before I put my base on. I'm just letting the glue harden. Okay, so moving on to the star. The score lines in your star, you want to kind of concertina them. So what that means is the longer score lines you want to be mountain folds, and the shorter score lines in between you want to be valley folds. And that way it will give your star some dimension. So if you can see the way that I'm folding it there. And then I'm adding some glue to these little tabs. Now I'm always like this. I always want to use glitter and sparkle and different finishes. But they do take a little bit of a minute to dry because obviously it's non-porous. It's not as, it doesn't dry as quickly as paper. So it's handy to put this together, this star, and then set it aside, put the rest of your tree together, and then it will be ready to go. So I'm having to put a little bit of pressure on this to get it to take, but that's okay because the shape will just pop back in once it's dry. Because once you've folded it along the score lines at the beginning, when you then come back to kind of pop it out and you want that dimension back, it will naturally go back into that shape again. Okay, so I've popped out my trunk, and I'm just adding some glue to all of the tabs at the bottom, and then you've got this little hexagon piece that just pops on the end. And that means that our tree will stand on its own. So I'm just trying to be careful, making sure that it's all fitting nicely. Now, believe it or not, that's all of the assembly done. That's all your gluing, that's your construction. The rest of it is just slotting together. So your main branches, I guess, of your tree are these snowflake shapes. And all you need to do is get them all together in a pile, and you want to pile them from the biggest to the smallest. So you don't need any numbers, you don't need any letters on them or anything like that. All you need to do is just take your time and just pile them up. And while I was doing this, I did find that sometimes I had a couple the wrong way round, because the increments are ever so slight, you know, it's very gradual. But you'll see if you don't have them in the right order. And if the worst comes to the worst and you put them on the tree in the wrong way round, it really doesn't matter, just slide them off again, because nothing's glued. So actually, come to think of it, it does mean that you could actually disassemble your tree at the end of Christmas and put it away. Okay, so I'm getting there now. Getting my little pile of snowflakes from the biggest to the smallest. Okay, that's the tricky bit done. Right, now I'm going to put my tree together. Okay, so I flip my pile over, so I've got the biggest one at the top. And all I do is I slide it down my cone until it comes to a stop. And you take each one at a time. And what I want to do, because I'm using texture card, is I just want to make sure that my texture is facing upwards. And literally all you do, all the way up your tree, slide them on and they'll go down until they stop, and then they'll all be completely evenly spaced. So as I put each one down, I'm patting it. You can see I'm kind of patting it on both sides. That's just so I know that it's at a 90-degree angle, that it's kind of straight. Well, we're nearly there, just a few to go. Okay, the last couple. And then you've got a little bit of your tree left at the top. So this is where your star comes into play. Now one end of your star here is left open. So I'm just popping my star back out, you know, where we put some pressure on earlier on so the glue took on the glitter. So where the opening is in the star, you see here, I'm just sliding it over the trunk of my tree. And it kind of naturally sits, because it goes up into the point of the star, and it naturally sits just where your first lot of branches are. And that is it. That is how easy it is. It goes together ever so quickly, and it's quite effective, and it's got a lovely modern kind of look to it. And yeah, you can disassemble it at the end of the season.